Well, hospital porters' pride and dignity stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. And today I'm at a little village called Peasemore in Berkshire, and it's a very, very out the way place actually. No buses even come here. I think one a day or something, and I had to walk. I just had to walk for an hour from the nearest bus stop, which is in a nearby town, and I'll just show you where it is on the map. Okay, well this is the map I'm using for my trip to Peasemore. It's Ordnance Survey Land Ranger number 174, Newbury Wantage, Hungerford and Didcot. And firstly you've got to find Peasemore. Right, blimey, where is it? It's so small. There it is, Peasemore. That it is. You see, that is basically the... Well, as you can see, I've got a larger scale printout with an aerial view of Peasemore, but that's the actual village there. See, there's the church, and there's the pub up there and everything. So that's Peasemore. God blimey. Honestly, if you were studying this map while you were eating fruitcake, you could easily lose Peasemore underneath one of the crumbs. Quite remarkable. Now the first thing that strikes you, it's best. I mean, I'm a great sort of like lover of maps. It's a kind of I'm a bit of a cartophile, and I'm sort of used to reading maps. But I don't know if you are. But the first thing that strikes me about this area, and of course that is the impression I get from actually being there, is it's very hilly. It's not mountainous, but compared to where I live in Oxford, it is pretty hilly. I mean, you can see here some tight contours. You can see, which is very, very shows lots of steep hills, and around Peasemore there's these steep, very tight contours which show it's a lot more hilly than it is around Oxford. That's for certain. Now, another strange thing about this area is the profusion of white bases. That is not secret ones like Peasemore, but white ones, open bases. For example, somewhere in, I can't remember where it was, but Tony Scott talked about it in the Amash conference. There's somewhere in Reading here, there's this signals base from World War II that he was talking about, where he visited. Large number of white bases. Just to the east of this map, I went through it on the train actually, is Aldermaston. Now Aldermaston is where Britain's atomic weaponry programme was started, and still was, where the missiles and things were designed, and warheads and other things were engineered. Britain, of course, brought into the American Trident and Polaris systems, and it was all organised there from Aldermaston. A lot of the research was done at Aldermaston. Now, this is, of course, now to go back to Peasemore. This is Peasemore, and as I will explain, there are no entrances to the base at Peasemore, and so that's to be expected. All right, I don't expect to find any significant entrances. I'm just going there just in case. The main entrances to Peasemore, according to Casbolt and King, are in other locations, a long, long way away, connected by the base through the base by a tunnel. Now the base itself is beneath Peasemore. It's the top of the base, the roof, in other words, is 600 feet below the surface. So it's 600 feet, which is quite a long way. It's about it's almost as long as the actual village itself. And they go down about a mile, which is a very, very big base. And King describes it as being 450 by 650 yards across. Now, one of the bases mentioned is here. Well, sorry, one of the base's entrances to the Peasemore, there's Peasemore there, is up here at the Harwell Laboratories, and I'm going to have to pay a visit there. The Rutherford Appleton Laboratory at Harwell in Oxfordshire. There's the border of Oxfordshire and Berkshire there. You can see it running that black line. It used to be much further north. I mean, before 1974, what's now the Vale of White Horse was actually part of Berkshire, so a lot of their territory was seceded to Oxfordshire, although we didn't go to war over it, I'm glad to say. Another entrance is at Greenham Common Air Base. Right, Greenham Common is just off this map here towards the southeast. It's in the downs here, so in this really hilly area and that right around here. So what's pretty apparent is that the tunnels that link the Peasemore base to its entrances at Harwell here and at Greenham Common way down here, look at the scale. Right, you can just see these tunnels are enormously long. In one case, about 10 miles long, in another case about 30 miles long. And apparently there are other entrances as well. I think King and Casbolt said there were 4 entrances all in all. So that's another feature of Peasemore Base. It's it itself is a large, deep underground military base, but its entrance tunnels are a long, long way away, and you have to travel a long way to get out the base. I don't know what they do if there's a fire or something. I imagine they just cook. As again, I mean, around this area here, there may well be things like air vents, heat extraction points where heat extraction exhausts, things like that, to make sure there's plenty of fresh air gets down into the base, and the heat, as well as the excess air, gets dumped out. That's another thing to look out for. Now, what's strange here? One other thing strange. I was, you know, there were some rather strange things here, which I'll come to later. But just bear in mind, there's some strange place names. A few miles from Peasemore, there's a place called Egypt. Egypt, Berkshire. How odd. I wonder if there's pyramids there. And over here, there's something called World's End. World's End? It's a little town up near, it's near where I got the bus, actually. I went through there, actually, on the bus. Now, that is very, very odd. And this is another thing that's quite common. You get, as I'll explain more, I'll explain in detail later in the film, but basically you get modern technology, Illuminati technology, next to ancient sacred sites, and I'll go into more detail on that later. There's a reason for that. There's lots and lots of old hill forts, as you see here. Black Ditch. It's not just hill forts, but these ditches and things. Old Iron Age, pre-Illuminati hill forts. There we are. There's a fort there. There's another one there. Grimsby Castle. There's more around Newbury, in the Newbury area. There's a large proportion of these ancient forts, which are pre-Illuminati. They date back to the Iron Age, before the Roman conquest, when we pre-Illuminati Britons became Illuminati Britons. So that's another strange feature there. So that's basically the area I'm in, and now I'm going to switch to the closer scale map, which includes an aerial view as well, so to help me navigate my way around Peasemore Village. So let us explore, Herpanlo TV viewers. This is a book called Underwater and Underground Bases by Richard Sauder, PhD, author of Underground Bases and Tunnels. Now, this is an absolutely essential book, I think, for anyone doing the kind of investigation I'm doing today. I've taken this with me to Peasemore. I will refer to it at certain times throughout this film. Absolutely, it's quite an old book now, dates back to the 1990s. Very well worth reading. Talks about all of this sort of thing, and it's really, really, really good. Absolutely, it's been absolute goldmine of information for me. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about are based on this book. So do check out, get a copy of this if you can. Now, the reason I've come here is because this little village has become very famous in UFO circles in recent years. About 20 years ago, in fact, Miles Johnston released his Bases Project Part 1 and 2, which was all about this little village here. And I'll show you the map. I've got a more detailed map here, and I'm going to have a little walk through the village and see if I can see anything significant. This is my more detailed map there. See, as you can see that little overhead view as well. Basically, what happened was the story goes that beneath our feet here, in this little hillside in Berkshire, lies a deep underground military base. Now, the testimony that has led to us thinking this came primarily from someone called Barry King, but also from several other people like James Casbolt, Lisa Williams, and a couple of others I think have mentioned it. Now I'm going to take a little walk through the village and see if I can see anything interesting, because there's I'm sure, you know, there's an awful lot to see. This is this little village. I mean, it's, as I said, it's a little place in the middle of nowhere, but you know, it's famous for certain things. I mean, there was a lady called Dora Jessie Saint who was born and brought up here. She was a school teacher here when they used to have a school, and she became the author Miss Reed as her the name she wrote under, a nom de plume. But there's another resident of Peasemore you might be familiar with. I don't know what house he lived in. He probably has a plaque on it now. That's a certain Mr. David Cameron. Yes, our current fearless leader. Actually, he wasn't born in Peasemore, but he lived here as a child. Whether that's significant, I'm not sure. But anyway, there's several people who come out talking about the Peasemore base. It's very, very interesting too. The Peasemore base, apparently it's very, very deep indeed. It's one of these deep underground military bases, and I use military in the broadest possible tone, because the broadest possible sense, because, you know, this is not like the army or the navy or the armed forces. Okay. This is they're no more part of the military as we know the military as your local nursery school. The military in this case refers to the one world elite, the globalist political class, the Illuminati. So perhaps military is the wrong word, but the name is stuck, DUM, Deep Underground Military Base. There are several other around. Most famous is Area 51, which has been proven to exist because we know the number of people who come in and out. I'll be talking more about that in a minute. A number of people who come in and out of Area 51 are far more than you would get if it was just the surface visible buildings that were actually had staff. So there's definitely an underground facility. Yeah, this is one of the signs you need to look for a military base, a deep underground military base. Another, of course, is Dulce in New Mexico. I'm sure some of you've read the Dulce book by Branton, and several other people have talked about the Dulce base. Paul Benowitz, who was basically, sadly, he was used for disinformation by Richard Doty, Mark Pilkington's mate, and William Moore, the man who sold his soul to the state hoping he'd get information but didn't get any. Used to be a ufologist, became a shill and confessed on stage in 1989. The stories go that, according to King and to Casbolt, or Michael Prince as he's sometimes known today, is that 600 feet beneath our feet is the highest levels of the Peasemore base. It's reported to be 450 yards by 650 yards, although rather than being a large scooped out area, a large single chamber, it's more likely to be a series of tunnels and smaller chambers, which is what these bases normally form within the ground. Now, the reports of what goes on there is very similar actually to Dulce, as if this is the British equivalent of Dulce. Experiments in genetic engineering, using human prisoners. I know this is what I'm going to talk about sounds horrible, but it has to be explained. I mean, if this is going on, it needs to be said. MILABs, military abductions, where the government come and take you, and sometimes people think it's aliens, but it's actually the government. As a car come in one moment. Sometimes it's actually the military and the government who come and take you. Thank you. And sometimes it is aliens, sometimes it's the aliens and the government working together. According to Barry King, this the Peasemore base beneath our feet begins 600 feet down, which is a long way, but its lowest levels are more than a mile below the surface of the earth. The story goes that it's run by the National Security Agency in cooperation with the US Air Force. Probably there are other people involved as well. Barry King's role was security. He doesn't necessarily need to know everything about Peasemore. I'm going to start taking a walk through the village now. I've got my little map here. Some nice houses. It's very much. I mean, I'll tell you what. I'll show you the village. I'll show you the village website and see what you think. Sorry, I can't be bothered to get the tripod out. Sorry. Peasemore. This is the Peasemore's Wikipedia page. A village and civil parish in the county of Berkshire, United Kingdom. St Barnabas Church, small population, had a village school built 1850, closed 1950, old village post office, closed 1980, Fox and Hounds, that's the Fox at Peasemore pub, cricket club, large church dedicated to St Barnabas, that's true, but transport, sport, very successful cricket team, history, Peasemore's mentioned in the Doomsday Book, notable residents, which I've already explained, Peasemore Village website, let's look at their website. Oh, it's a nice website they got here. Home, village notices, amenities, keep in touch. I might go to their Facebook page. Events, village notices, wine tasting, coffee morning bring and buy sale, harvest lunch, bites, bingo and booze, Vintage style tea party. Here we go. Items to bring. A list of things you can bring. Coffee morning. Hiring the village hall. It's only 2 pages. Peasemore superfast broadband registration, Berkshire. It's just what pretty typical actually of sort of rural. Peasemore in pictures, picture gallery. Some really old ones there. There's an old wartime photo. Random gallery. Yeah, it's what should I do? I'll put UFO into the. There is a search box here. There's no contact point. I can't contact anyone. I'll put UFO into the search box. See what comes up. UFO, 0 results found. Okay, right, alien. Zero results found. Alright then. Bases. I'll put bases in. See what I get. Probably something about the Rounders team. No. 0 results. It seems like, according to their official Peasemore Village website, the people of Peasemore are pretty oblivious to the story which I'm telling as I go and visit this village. Oh well, that's up to them, I guess. There's a lovely little thatched cottage there. And it's just, as you can see, it's very much a kind of typical sort of rural English heartland traditional village. I mean, it's quite rustic, quite pastoral. Now the odd thing we got to realise is that, as with Dulce, New Mexico, I mean, the UFO hunters actually went to Dulce, New Mexico, and they actually tried to investigate whether they could see anything under the ground, on the surface, that would lead them to think that there was a base underneath. Look at that! Isn't that beautiful? That's a lovely building. That is a traditional English thatched cottage. See, American tourists think we all live in houses like this. Isn't that lovely? We don't, of course. I certainly don't. But Americans think we all live in buildings like this. The UFO hunters, Bill Burns and his young associates, went to Dulce, New Mexico to see if they could find the deep underground military base. Of course they couldn't. And if you watch that program, you'll know that they failed to find the base. See where we are on the map. I think we're coming up that road there. You see that little short road there? We're going around the corner. I think those thatched cottages there we just passed. It's a small place actually, just a population of 300 people. You get them on a couple of coaches. Bramble Cottage, isn't that lovely? It's almost like it is, it's like the sort of American idyllic vision of Britain, isn't it? And so rare. It's just because this place is so remote and so it's quite inaccessible, as I explained. There's no buses come through here. The only way you can get here is to walk or drive, and it's almost an hour's walk from the nearest bus stop. Only the most determined hospital porters and ex-hospital porters have the stamina to do it, I think. Anyway, back to Dulce. I digress. Of course, the UFO hunters went to Dulce, New Mexico. They found absolutely nothing. They went to Architluta Mesa, the mountain under which Dulce is supposed to be built, and they found absolutely nothing. This does not necessarily prove the base was not there, and this is a feature that I think it may apply to the Peasemore base as well, beneath our feet, and that is that there's no, I mean, the reason it's called the Peasemore base is because it's underneath the village of Peasemore. But the people who live in the village need not have anything to do with it. There are no entrances to the base from the village of Peasemore. Okay, the actual entrances to the base are, as I showed you on the map, there's one at Greenham Common, there's one at Harwell, Oxfordshire, which I'm going to visit actually. The Harwell laboratories, the nuclear laboratories. And as you've seen on the map, there's a lot of very, very strange things around here. Strange places with strange names doing strange things. Yeah, Peasemore House. No. So, I mean, my first thought, oh, they've got a branch of the Illuminati here. They hold the Illuminati rituals in these
big buildings. Got all the wind. I hope you can. This is a test of whether the windbreak works. That need not be the case any more than the villages and towns under which the Channel Tunnel goes have anything to do with the Channel Tunnel or the London Underground. That goes underneath all kinds of buildings that are not even aware of its existence because it's way below the ground, or they know it's there but it's buried so deep it doesn't affect them. I mean, we're talking about people who live in what looks like a perfectly ordinary place. What goes on 600 feet plus below their feet means absolutely nothing. Right. Okay, we're coming up the hill now, round another corner. I won't be able to spend too long here actually. There's a little farm. Oh, look at the little horses in the farmyard. See, it looks like a typical piece of rustic England. Now, according to Casbolt and King, the base was used for something called Project Mannequin, which was akin to the operations going on. It involves mind control, genetic experimentation, akin to what was going on in Dulcie. And as I say, deep underground military bases are a fact. We know they're a fact because, as I've said, there's ways of finding out they're there. And as in the Richard Sowder's book, which I showed you, there are ways and means of finding these things out. One of those times, as I've explained, if you get a, for instance, I mean, this is why I want to go to Harwell. I mean, it won't, in a way, I'm only coming here just on the off chance I see something that's interesting now. But if you go to Harwell and you see a huge car park that's far too big for the building it's supposed to be in, that's another sign that there's a deep underground military base. This is the case with Area 51. We know how many people get on the Janet planes and go into Area 51. We know it's too many. That means there is an underground facility there. Same with Pine Gap. There is an underground facility there. Even though you can't see it, again, there's these signs that show that it exists. And there's another thing we need to look for as well. Now, where are we now? Oh, we come to a junction. There's a big set of gates here. Right. No, I'm not sure where we are here. I think we might be there. I'm not sure, maybe down here somewhere, I don't know. But I can see the church through the tree, so I'm going to head up towards the church. That's usually the centre of towns. Yeah. Now, the signs to look for, along with what I've explained before, it's possible that the people in the village know something in terms of they may have some sensations and sound. It's possible whatever is going on in the base, and King and Casbolt won't know everything that's going on there. King and Casbolt would only know what's necessary for their jobs. It's possible if there's something that generates lots of vibration in the base below, it's possible that the tremor could reach the surface, and it's possible that people in this village have experienced unusual earth tremors being directly above the base. Even through 600 feet of solid rock and earth, it's possible that the tremor may have carried on there, may have carried that far. You might going to keep that in a bit. Thank you. Another, I mean, I think this could certainly be the case when the base was being constructed. According to, now when it was built we're not sure, but it dates back to at least 1972. During the period it was constructed, and there may be people in the village who remember that, during the period where the base was under construction, there would have been a lot of vibration from the construction methods, and according to James Casbolt they used what's known as a subterrene, which is a type of tunnel boring machine. You may have seen these tunnel boring machines, these circular huge drum-shaped machines with a cutting head on the end, which basically drill through the rock in they're single section multi-purpose machines, and they tunnel through the rock like earthworms. And that's how the tunnel was built. That's how many other fake tunnels and things like that were built. Now, the submarine works differently. It's nuclear powered. It creates a lot of heat. It doesn't have a cutting. It doesn't cut with a cutting tool at the front. It cuts using a lot of heat to melt the rock. Actually melts the rock. You need an awful lot of heat for that, a hell of a lot. But apparently, while it's doing that, the spoil is just sort of liquid melted rock, lava, magma, and some of it is used to coat the inside of the tunnel with this lovely vitrified smooth surface. And apparently it can drill much faster than a traditional tunnel boring machine, but it's classified. I mean, there's no known subterranean in existence. The amount of heat generated would be impossible with any technology that is publicly available. However, Casbolt assures me that these machines exist. Now, I'm just by the church now. I think I'll go in and have a look at the church in a minute. But before I do that, there's another sign to look for if you're looking for a deep underground military base, and that is the fact that the deep underground military base has it's underground, it's out of sight, out of mind, but it needs air. It's underground, it has no source of air, unlike the surface, which means massive amounts of air has to be pumped into the ground underneath, into the chambers underneath the ground through air vents and massive pumps. And I mean, this is the case with coal mines and things like that. In fact, in the old days, before proper air pumps were invented, and they used to have these hand pump things, miners used to go down in mines and suffocate. They simply used to suffocate because there was no air. If the pump broke down when they were down there, they were finished. So that's one thing. That a base the size of Peasemore, if it starts at 600 feet, goes down a mile, it's 400 yards to 650 yards, whatever square. Those chambers will need an awful lot of air, which means air has to be pumped in from the surface. Now, this is another thing with Dulcie. This is what the UFO hunters were looking for. They were looking for air vents, and they didn't find any. But the air vents don't have to be anywhere near the actual base. The air can be drawn in from a long distance away. Now, what I'm looking for, of course, in that case, is air vents. Air to suck air in, and also to remove the polluted air, as in carbon dioxide, water vapour, and other things that are breathed out or exhaust from machines and things like that. Now, it's possible that Peasemore has an internal air circulation system like submarines and spacecraft do, but that could only be used temporarily. It could only be used that in an emergency, if, for instance, someone went along and decided to kill everyone by blocking the air vents. It would still, that can only be used temporarily, and Peasemore would need air vents. That's the thing; it would need air vents. So, and a base the size that Casbolt and King described would need huge air vents. Air vents that would be too small to hide, which means they would have to be on the surface visible. Now, what would you do? Now, what could you do? How would you deal with that if you have a secret underground military base? And the answer is, you'd have to disguise them to look like something else, like barns, like farmhouses, possibly the houses in this village. And I think it's unlikely, actually. I think they would not put it in the middle of a village. It would arouse too much suspicions if there was some house which nobody lived in, and sort of like no one went in or out. That would arouse too much suspicion. And there's another thing as well, because along with the waste air, along with the carbon dioxide and water vapour and engine exhaust and other things that went through the extraction vent, there'd be heat. Another problem underground buildings have is heat. Another problem they have is heat. Now, you go down to 600 feet, and that's just the shallowest levels. All right, it gets warmer. The more deeper down you go, the warmer it gets. And by the time you get to a mile deep, the lowest levels of Peasemore, you're looking at a lot of heat coming off the walls. I think there's something like 30 degrees or something coming off the walls. So it's like a hot summer sun beating down on every single wall of the structure. That generates an awful lot of heat. Not only heat from the outside rock, but also heat from internal machines, body heat. The heat generated by computers and electrical devices, by machinery. that itself would give off heat. That heat would need to be extracted, and this is a major problem in things such as submarines and spacecraft, and it's an even bigger problem for an underground building. This means that along with, if you're looking for a building and you think it might be an exit vent to the Peasemore base or any other deep underground military base, you'd see heat haze above it. So I think that is the way to look at it. That is the way to do it. That is the method, I think, by which a base like Peasemore might be discovered. If you just, what I need to do is go around the countryside, and I've been looking around. I mean, I didn't pass any major buildings here. As I said, it will probably be quite a remote area. It wouldn't be one of the buildings in the village. But I passed quite. I think that's, you'd be able to see heat haze above the roof, and you'd think, well, where's that coming from? And that's because it's not really a house. It's actually an extraction vent for a deep base. Anyway, I'm going to take a walk through the village. I think I've reached the... I'm going to have a little quick look in the church, and I'm going to have a little walk through the village and see what I can find. See you in a minute. Okay, I'm just going to have a look in the church now. This looks nice, these various service times. The Listless case restored in 2001 in memory of Pat and Jimmy James to celebrate the millennium. Oh, this is really old. There we are. Now, these gravestones are ancient. It just shows how old. Now, Peasemore's mentioned in the Doomsday Book. That's how old it is. Look at these. These gravestones are sunk down. Amazing, isn't it? It's a lovely old church with a spire. Absolutely beautiful. And there's some newer gravestones here. There's one from that one's from 2007. And let's pop in here. Take my hat off, even though I'm not a God-fearing man, but thought I'd just show respect to people, you know. There's some nice things in there. There's the suicide thing, you know, and you know the Samaritans, and there's a lot of other things here which I'll let you pause and read. Yeah, services. Peasemore Church electoral roll. I don't think I can get in. No, it's locked. Just peek through the keyhole. Through the keyhole. I can see these old pews now. So there's a church. Definitely nothing esoteric going on there. It's just a church. Oh look, someone's left this. Please take if anyone would like them. Oh, marrows. Lovely. I don't fancy them particularly, but look. Oh, it's an old, I don't know what year this is. Oh, I'm gonna have to head off, but got to get on with this. So I thought I didn't get in the church. Don't know where the people, don't know where everyone is. If I didn't know better, I'd think they'd just been Peter Tatchelled. You see where I am now. I'm just walking up that little road where the A is, the A tag. I'm just going up that road now called Field Road, just turning the corner there, and I'm going up Field Road, which seems to be the main road through the village. Or is it? Or am I going the wrong way? Perhaps I'm going the wrong damn way. Lovely thatched barns again. I only have a limited amount of time, unfortunately. I'm going to have to head out of here about 2:30, just to make sure it's now 1:50. I want to have a drink in the Fox Pub, the famous Fox Pub. I think I've gone the wrong way because I think this is a sign which says Peasemore. Yes, it is. Right, I'm going to have to go. Excuse me. I'll have to re-navigate and get back to you. Now this is somewhere called Peasemore Manor and Peasemore Manor and Manor Farm. Now there's some stone structures you see in the grounds. I don't know if that's significant. You see, the strange thing is, I met someone I know anyway. About 2 or 3 years ago, they were talking to me that they'd come here. Someone in the UFO community had come here, and they'd sort of looked around and they'd found a building with a stone circle in the grounds. I don't know if that's what they meant, because that to me just looks like bollards or garden decorations. It doesn't look like anything esoteric, if you know what I mean. Now this person told me that they sort of like asked around about that, and I can't remember what else they said. I'll have to get in touch with them to try and find out what they actually said, because I'm a little bit lost. about whether that's anything, that's what they were talking about, what I've just filmed. I doubt it, actually. I think the person I'm talking about is a very level-headed guy. I don't think he would sort of like get into a tizzy about a couple of bollards and garden gnomes. No, I think there's more to it than that. There's more going on. Now, where this, of course, I've never been here before. I don't know the village. I mean, what I could do is ask people. There's some Peasemore there, you see ahead of us. I could ask the people. Maybe see this person I'm talking about went into the pub there, and he sort of asked a few people's questions and things like that. And apparently they were a bit cagey. That's what I gather. Afternoon. Oh, well, the natives are friendly. The people there are a little bit cagey, apparently, and the landlord is a little bit suspicious. And I mean, since King and Casbolt's come along, I mean, I don't think many people have been here. As I say, it's so out of the way. Only the most determined hospital porters are willing to do it, like me. But anyway, I'm going to go into the pub anyway and see if I can find anything out. As far as I can tell, I've seen nothing here out of the ordinary at all. Nothing at all. What I've seen here is perfectly normal. Apparently, this guy asked about the house with the strange things in the garden, stone circle in the garden, and the people in the pub wouldn't talk about it. That's what he told me. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Right, there's a road up here now. Where we are? I think this is the road leading to the pub. I think I'll go have a drink in the pub. And maybe see if I won't be able to spend very long there. I've got the map upside down. That doesn't help. Here we are, Hill Green Lane. Now there's that circular structure there. If I get a chance, I'll have a look at that. But I think that must be Hill Green Lane. Is there a signboard? Oh, the Fox, look. The Fox. Apparently the pub is very famous for everything. Yeah, there's a good old-fashioned phone box as well. You don't see many of them. Whoa, good old-fashioned phone box. And as you can see, there is a bus stop here, but there's just 2 buses a day. Not very helpful. Right. Okay, I'm going to go up to the Fox and I'm going to have a beer. And I think I won't be able to spend much more time, actually, unfortunately, here. But as I said, everything looks completely normal here. In fact, it looks very charming. This is actually a very, very attractive village. If I see anything sort of Illuminati-esque, I will let you know. But as far as I'm concerned, these people are no more Illuminati than the cast of Emmerdale, which is, interestingly, the village very much represents. It represents the set of Emmerdale quite closely. Oh, there's a car coming. Oh, there's a little footpath there. I might walk up here on the little pavement. Now, is that an air vent? No, I think that's just a rabbit hutch. It's not an air vent, it's a rabbit hutch, Ben. Don't get your imagination carried away with you. People wouldn't start wondering what you're talking about. And you're not acting like a hospital porter who's level-headed and pragmatic. But I've read the Richard Saunders book, as I showed you. There's nothing there which appears to be in line with what Saunders talking about. Nothing at all. So, quite frankly, I wouldn't say it's a wasted journey at all, because time's never wasted with you. Because I say it's a lovely place. It's nice to come here. Anyway, I might do a bit of secret filming in the pub, actually. Maybe we can pick up some conversations of people. Oh, there's a notice board as well. Let's have a look at that. There's a notice board here. Yoga, keep fit. Your local counsellors, save the children. Babysitter, nanny, Pilates. It's pretty village hall activities, generally the usual thing you get in village notice boards. Just basically a copy of what was on the website, really. Oh well. Oh, these are your police. These are the local police. They're the people who are probably going to come and arrest me soon. Okay, we're approaching the Fox pub at Peasemore. I'm going to go in for 2 reasons. I want to get some intelligence, some human intelligence. And secondly, I don't know, I fancy a pint. Which is the excuse and which is the reason? That's the question. So yeah. Right. Is this the box? Yeah. Take me off. Don't look scruffy when I come in here. Nice little place. Apparently this pub's quite famous. Heidi was talking about it. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello.
Wait a second, I'll write with you.
No problem, no rush. Bit chilly today, isn't it?
It is, yeah, we're getting ready
time.
for doing the fire for tonight.
I'm afraid I won't be in town for that. I have to head off and I'm only passing through.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a lovely little place you got here.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah, oh, you love it. It's, yeah, my hands are full of some soot, so I don't want. I want Angela might be out in a minute. Let me just
No
make sure
worries.
she's coming. So I don't want to tarnish sure.
Oh, it's better than what they put in the beer in town. I'll tell you.
Angela, you like to take attention because I've got soot in my hands. No, don't we? Okay, are you sure you don't mind? Sorry, so I've got.
No, go ahead. It's all right.
Okay, what was it you like?
Have a pub. What's the time now? What's the time?
It's 2:05.
Well, I'll have a pint of Stowford Press then.
Yeah,
Just
certainly.
want to check I had time to drink it.
Yeah, of course. Oh, you've got time to drink it, that's fine.
I've got to get back to. The
Oh, I
nearest-
see.
Well, the nearest bus stop's an hour's walk from here. It's quite remote, Peasemore, isn't it?
No, there's a bus stop just outside here, but I'm
Isn't
not
it?
sure what time it comes.
Twice a day. It's
Do you know what time the last one is?
10 to 2.
10 to 2.
Apparently, it says 13:52, or just after 10 to 2. Yeah.
That's gone then, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I'll
Oh.
have to just. That's okay. I'll just.
We'll be back into Newbury.
I'm going to go back to Cheveley to catch the bus. There's one at 3:45. I can get there.
Oh, I see, because you've missed the last one from here, is that right?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
quite
a shame.
unspoilt here, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely no. Right. That's Stay for Press, that's just £3.85, please.
385, right. Yeah. I know someone else who came here and they said it's a lovely little place, but they felt there was an earthquake here apparently.
But Peasemore?
Yeah. And somebody
I've
felt
never
some
heard
trembling. You never felt any sort of
No.
trembling from coming from underground?
No, not at all. Oh, how weird. But an earthquake? Never heard that.
No, it's just one of the things no one around here has ever experienced that, have they?
No, I
good
don't, not that I know of. When was this? When was it? Do
It
you
was a
know?
few years back. He said he was here and he
Oh.
felt maybe it's just his imagination. But he said he heard strange.
Maybe Daddy didn't like the night before.
Could be. He
I've
heard
not heard that, anyway.
strange sounds and
Oh, strange sound.
and like a trembling comes from under the ground. I haven't felt anything myself. It all looks perfectly stable to me. Oh, this is nice.
Oh,
Was this-
thank you.
Is this just the eating area or can I?
You can sit there.
Oh, thank you.
It was here to sit.
Oh, lovely. Thanks very much. Cheers.
That's all right. You keep all this free as a bar.
Oh, nice. That's lovely. Yeah. Now I looked at your website and you said you had a harvest dinner on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm going to be back home.
Ah.
You know,
Where did you go? Oxford?
It's my birthday, so I've got to be back in Oxford. Yeah.
Ah.
Oh.
Tell me one of you home.
Yeah, that's it.
That's nice, though, isn't it?
Yeah, this looks nice. Lovely. Well, thank you very much.
That's all right.
Lovely place. Beautiful pub, this. I had to pause and read this. What's at Peasemore? Well, the pub toilets look completely normal. These things are just babies' high chairs. So, nothing suspicious really here. But now we're approaching the big circular structure that's here. This big circular structure on this, I just pointed out. I think this is the village green. Oh yeah, there's the old cricket. There's the old cricket things over there, the wicket, which of course they keep people off so that they don't ruin the wicket and get the swing wrong on the ball and things like that. There's the nets where they practice the bowling and batting. So apparently Peasemore has a top-class cricket team. I think I've reached the edge of the village. There's the fox at Peasemore. See? I think I'm going to have to head back because I'm running a bit short of time, but let's just have a look at this sign. So like I say, I've come through the entire village. You can't accuse me of cutting any corners, Panorama TV viewers. Peasemore. Yeah, I can imagine it's a nice place. I can just hear the thwack of leather against willow on a warm sunny summer's day, and then popping into the Fox for a pint after the match, or everyone in their cricket whites covered in green stains of grass. Oh, the clouds have come over. It's a shame. Do you know, I forgot to mention. I should have mentioned it earlier, and it's amazing I forgot. This has been the first chemtrail-free day I've seen for probably up to 3 weeks. It's been unbelievable. The chemtrails have been absolutely disgusting. Let me just put this away. Sorry, guys, so I don't want to make you dizzy. I'm just putting my map away in my notebook. I must say, actually, I mean, the gardens. I was showing you some of the gardens in the village, and they're beautiful. And it's a beautiful village. You can see people are proud here of the appearance of their place. And that lady who was an unwitting interviewee of mine just now, the barmaid. I should have, if she's watching, I should apologise actually for that. But I wanted to get her natural reaction without her knowing that she was making a statement for Panorama TV, and I've made sure she's not on camera. It was a secret film, and she's not on camera. I've mentioned her name. I must say, this place has I mean, you notice it most when you get to the main street, the field lane that leads down to the church, or whatever it's called. It has a slightly Wicker Man feel to it, actually. I must say, maybe that's just my imagination, but I do detect it in the energy of the area a slightly esoteric, otherworldly feel. Ellis Taylor will know what I'm talking about if he's listening. Another lovely thatched cottage. It has that slightly. I mean, people say this about Alton Barnes, which of course is the heart of crop circle country. There's a lot of flint around here. Everything seems to be made of flint. I mean, when I was walking up here along the path from the bus stop, it's amazing how much flint there was. Little lumps of it everywhere. There's the village notice board there, little post box. I don't know how you pronounce that. The Pytel, is that it? What a strange name for a road. Yeah, it has this kind of. People used to say about Alton Barnes in crop circle country. They used to say that it was that the people there had all been abducted, and they were a bit loopy, and they were sort of semi-human, and they had implants and things like that in them. I get that kind of sensation here in a way. I can say there is something kind of otherworldly about it, maybe related to what's going on beneath their feet unknowingly. It just seems like it seems so incongruous when you read the Dulcie book and you listen to King and Casbolt and what the sort of things they talk about. It seems impossible what's going on, just impossible to mash the two together. It's very easy if you live in a place like this. Look at that little well and everything, isn't it lovely? It's just beautiful. It's like a fairy tale Hansel and Gretel thing, except it's not made of cake, that house. But you see, when you look at sites like that, look at the tomato plants, vegetables. Oh, it's great. And all the flint in the beds. As I showed you on the map, there's some mushrooms. As I showed you on the map, there's a distinct. The landscape around here is very spectacular. But it's very easy to sort of like lose track of what's really going on when you see these idyllic little sites. I mean, that lady in the pub, she explained, she's never heard or felt anything strange here. I lied slightly there and I told her that I knew someone had been in and felt an earthquake. Well, this must be the village hall. As I said, really, you know, this the name of the base. That may not be the base's official name. It may just be called that because it's under the village. But really, I mean, it's irrelevant. It's really quite irrelevant. As I said, I compared people who live under you know, London Underground, railway lines, and the Channel Tunnel. These villages it goes underneath. The Peasemore base has less to do with the Peasemore village than that. I've not seen the strange stone circle that my friend was talking about. And as you find out, you know, the people in the pub are perfectly charming, they're perfectly affable. Strange word, that, affable. How do you aff something? That's the sort of thing Slaxer would say. Oh. But of course, I mean, you look at this sort of like pastoral idyll, this heart of England rural paradise, and then you think of things like missing children, what they do. I mean, it's so distressing to talk about, but it's true and it has to be discussed. We're talking about missing children here. We're talking about the strange abduction of so many more children go missing. You know, do you remember that article by Brian Gerrish, 80 Maddies a month? And it's even more than that, 100,000 children a year in Scotland alone go missing. Where do they all go? I mean, if they were just living on the streets like runaway kids do, some kids who are lucky enough, I should say, lucky enough, strange thing to say, but it's true, if they're lucky enough to be merely living on the streets and things like that, they'd be on every street corner. There'd be kids living on every street corner in cardboard boxes. Where do they all go? Why won't the police investigate? Here's the church again. That's the question I want to know, I'll tell you. And when you think about that and you compare it and you look around and see these flower beds, these nicely trimmed lawns, it's almost impossible to comprehend that two are separated by just 600 feet of soil and rock. You know, the things they talk about, the National Security Agency in the United States, the US Navy, whatever else is involved, the Illuminati at a higher level involved in the base, the creation of programmable life forms. This is what has been talked about quite a lot by the various witnesses. These are living creatures that are genetically modified, greys that are not from outer space. They're actually genetically engineered here on Earth. They may be related to space aliens, but they're not space aliens. They're artificial. And the experiments they do on children. I mean, there's a story you can hear if you watch the Basis Project and you listen to Casbolt's interviews, especially his earlier ones on the Edge programme. He talks about a deep underground military base in the Brecon Beacons in South Wales, and they found two children close to there, two teenagers, a boy and a girl, suffering from wounds similar to what you see on cattle. I don't want to go into any more detail than that. It's too upsetting to talk about. No wonder David Cameron comes from this place. Look at the flint. You see flint everywhere around here. Now one of the criticisms, another car coming. One of the criticisms that the skeptics always bring up, or people who don't believe in this stuff always bring up, they say, well, you can't have deep underground military bases because they're so huge. I mean, they're described as being the size of small cities, some of them. Now, you can't have that because, you know, how would you fund them? Where would you get the money for these things? I mean, if you think how much the Channel Tunnel cost, how many billions that cost, think how much more something like Peasemore would cost. And you add on to it other bases like the one in the Brecon Beacons. There's Area 51, there's Dulcie, there's Pine Gap. There's a dozen locations actually around the world in which deep underground military bases are want to be. And the question, it's a valid question. It is a valid question. Thank you. People are nice in the countryside. They move out, they cross, when you're walking down the road, they sort of like pass you as if you're a cyclist or another vehicle. I mean, no one in Oxford does that. They just go, get out the bloody way, get off the gutter, I'm in a hurry. That's what they do in Oxford. Anyway, as I was saying, the big criticism that we often get from the skeptics is, where does the money come from all this? Where does the money come for all this? All the millions and billions it costs to build these things. The amount of money is unbelievable when you think about it. Well, the answer to that is twofold. Firstly, there's the black budget, which runs into many millions of dollars. It's spent on things like new aviation projects, like the stealth fighter and things like that. But it's also could be spent on other things. No one knows because it's a black budget. There's no oversight on. There's no sort of like democratic oversight to it. I mean, another thing, the missing trillions. Do you remember? Do you remember Donald Rumsfeld standing up in front of cameras one day and saying, "I'm very sorry to have to tell you this, but the Department of Defense has lost there's $3.8 trillion that we can't account for." Trillion, not million, trillion. Do you know how much a trillion is? It's an unimaginable amount of numbers, an unimaginable amount of money. Just try and visualise it, right? You take £1 million, then shrink it down to a size of a penny, just one penny, right? Even on that scale, £1 trillion is still £10,000. That's how big a trillion is, right? And he lost 3.8 of these things. What? Did he drop his wallet? Did he leave it on the bus? Did someone come and nick his cash box from under his bed? $3.8 trillion lost? That's what everyone should have been asking. What the fuck? The problem was, Donald Rumsfeld made this announcement on the 12th of September 2001. Sorry, on the 9th of September 2001. Sorry, I'm getting my dates mixed up. Oh yeah, the 10th of September 2001. Right. Sort of lost the effect there, really, didn't I? Yeah, he made this announcement on the 10th of September 2001, and of course, the next day, everyone forgot about everything, didn't they? So, and of course, I'm just going to do a quick chat. What time is it? Sorry, Panwo TV viewers, I need to make sure yeah, I've got time to get back to the bus stop. I've got over an hour. I just had a beer, so I don't want to rush myself. Yeah, the missing trillions, as I said. Now, this is where it gets very, very sinister, and James Casbolt's talked about that in his interviews, and that is that some of the money is raised in other ways. The government actually has shares and control of the drug industry. I mean, and I don't mean big pharma. I mean the very much closely related and not dissimilar illegal drug industry. I'm talking about the Colombian drug barons, heroin, cocaine, crack, things like that. The government has its finger in the pie of that, and it creams off an enormous cut from that industry. If you don't believe me, I mean, Bill Clinton, a former US president, used to actually import drugs at his airstrip at a place called Mena, Arkansas, before he was president. He used to help import the things. There's that lovely thatched cottage. So quaint, as the Americans say. Quaint. A really quaint thatched cottage. You Britishers really do live so well, don't you? I just tell them I live in the same house Shakespeare used to, and they go, "Oh, wow, you lived in Shakespeare's house? Wow, can you give him my best wishes and ask if I can have his fax number?" All right, what's the daftest thing ever said to me by an American tourist? Sorry, I've got to digress here. Good. Daftest thing ever said to me by American tourist. I was walking through Oxford one day, right, and this car drove towards me. It was on the wrong side of the road. It had hire car livery on the front, on the doors, and it was and the woman driving it had these huge sunglasses. Right. Well, here we are again. Goodbye, Peasemore. I shall be back. She said, and I mean, it couldn't have looked more American if it was flying the Stars and Stripes. And she says, "Excuse me, sir." They always say that. Usually, they ask me the way. They usually ask me where Oxford University is. That's the one you get all the time. Where's Oxford University? And I always say, well, you go on a plane, go to Boston, and go to the Harvard College, and I direct them to the Oxford University's laboratory in Harvard. Because see, the Oxford University is not in any one place; it's spread all over the place. It's in different colleges around Oxford. It owns facilities in other places in the country and indeed abroad, like in the United States. So I tell them, get on your plane, go back to Boston. There's a bit of the Oxford University there. But now this lady, she came to me and said, "Excuse me, sir, could you please tell me the way to Itchy-Coo Park?" And I said, "Madam, Itchy-Coo Park doesn't exist. It's from the lyrics of a song. It's that song by Small Faces, you know. La 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 la. It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful." I mean, that song was inspired by someone having to walk around Oxford. So I had to explain that Itchy-Coo Park doesn't exist. But the Americans think it's real because it was in a song about Oxford. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah. Deep underground military bases, the drugs industry. Oxford's is sorry, I shouldn't digress. Is that a black helicopter? I don't think so. That funds a lot of these projects, these secret projects like Project Mannequin, if it exists, and other things. And that's basically where that is the sinister side. That's the dark side of it. Frank Willis talks about this too. Frank Willis from Who Goes to Probe. I saw him actually at the Probe conference last week, and he talks about this too. So that's where a lot of the money comes from, unfortunately. I'm going to go down this little country lane now, and nymphs are going to play harps. Now, what happens when you start walking the spiritual path, as David Icke says? All friggin' hell breaks loose, doesn't it? Right, here we go. Yeah, this is it. Restricted by. That's right. I know where I am now. And don't need to get the map out. And that's a sad fact. It funds a lot of the black budget. Probably not just the esoteric stuff. It probably funds some things like the stealth fighter and things like that as well. It funds a lot of these things. Now, as you'll have seen when I showed you the map, this seems to be quite an esoteric place. Now, there's a lot of, as I showed you on the map, there's a lot of very, very peculiar things in this area. Now, this is West Berkshire. Now, apparently, I didn't understand what this actually meant, but Berkshire is not like a singular county. There's the Royal County of Berkshire, there's Berkshire, and there's the Unitary Authority of West Berkshire, which is where we're in. I don't understand exactly what that means. I think it's something to do with a bit like how the Fylde in where Blackpool is, St Anne's is sort of like a unitary authority in Lancashire, which means it's a kind of sub-county. I don't understand what it means. It's all very complicated, this political stuff, but this area, West Berkshire, has, even on the surface, in the white world, it has military bases coming out of its ears. Aldermaston, as I explained. There's that agricultural place I showed you. All kinds of other strange places now. And there's lots of esoteric stuff as well. I mean, you saw that place called Egypt. I never had time to go and see Egypt. But I wanted to go there. I'll look it up on Google Earth later and see if there's any, what's the word? Pyramids. I'll just actually pause there, sorry. See if there's any pyramids there, you know. But there's Aldermaston, which is where nuclear weapons are developed. And you get this again and again and again wherever you go. in this world, you see modern secret projects, even in the white sort of type secret I'm talking about, the grey world of nuclear weapons and things like that, and the white, well, nuclear weapons are white really, not grey. But you see that, and underneath the surface you see an esoteric link. Now, for some reason, you've seen on the map that I've explained to you, this landscape is very hilly compared to where I come from in Oxford. Sure, it's not a mountain range, but it's very undulating, so it's quite picturesque. And there are lots of hill forts around here. I'll explain to you all the hill forts we saw. And for some reason, this is where they've chosen to build all these things, whether it's Aldermaston, whether it's the Peasemore base. And there's all kinds of strange things around here. I mean, it's a bit of a weird place, because there's that signals location in Reading as well that Tony Scott was talking about. Was it Tony Scott? Yeah, of the Amash project. Spoke at the conference. I think that's his name, yeah. He talked about the signal station from World War II, which is still in use today at Reading, which is where I'm going on the train actually, to change trains to get home. And all kinds of other weird. We've left Peasemore behind us now. There's no men in black following me. Good. All kinds of other things like that. And I think maybe there's a reason why you get all these hill forts and tumuli, which is obviously, this was important. This was obviously a very populated location in the pre-Illuminati world, the Iron Age and before then. Before the Romans came along and illuminated everything with their all-seeing eye. Oh, was that a pheasant in the distance? See that, a little pheasant. Oh, it's gone now. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence these modern high technology secret projects tend to overlap with these ancient esoteric sites. The Illuminati are putting their stamp on these places. This is why they build neo-Neolithic, as I call it, architecture. I'm talking about the stone circles and things in places like Milton Keynes, which resemble pre-Illuminati sacred sites. It's like them saying, it's a form of ownership, it's a form of triumphalism. It's like the big white hunter with his pith helmet, standing with his boot on the head of the tiger he's just shot. Yeah, that's their mentality. It's triumphalism, it's glorification. Oh, blackberries, yummy. Still a few left. Well, thank you very much. We'll say thank you to the bush, because the bush is alive. It may be a plant, but it's still alive, so I always say thank you. This book I bought on shamanism told me about that, and I am kind of an urban shaman. Oh, damn thing stuck a thorn in me. Oh, fuck you then. That's an interesting sort of observation, and we're back in this big broad field now. Okay, now some of this stuff can't be true. Okay, now when it comes to deep underground military bases, Casbolt talks about some which I don't know where he got the information from, but they just don't make sense. What's that? Gas pipeline. He talks about a deep underground military base on Hawaii. He says it's a huge one, it stretches right out under the Pacific Ocean. Now, how can you can't actually build a large underground construction on Hawaii simply because the ground there is not stable geologically. In fact, it's right next to the world's biggest volcano. And this is another thing you've got to watch out for. When I don't know, I'm not saying James is lying, I'm just saying, because James, I know James, he's a guy, we used to go to Probe together, and he's a sort of friend of mine. But I'm just saying that James he's got his information from a bad place. You can't build large underground constructions next to things like volcanoes or in earthquake zones or where there's large geological faults, because it's like trying to build a house on a quicksand. It's like trying to build a house on quicksand. The rules of building a house on the surface, or any construction on the surface of the earth, is that you have to have stable foundations, and the same applies to underground constructions too. You have to have stable foundations for them, which means if you hear about someone saying, "Oh, I was at a secret base and right," and it's right in the heart of some geologically active area, it's bogus. It has to be bogus. Another thing Casbolt talks about in one of his interviews is Phil Schneider. Now, he's an interesting guy. He was a man who started doing lectures a few years ago, sometime in the 1990s. And he had terrible injuries, which included missing fingers and very bad scars on his body. And he said this was a result of a firefight that he'd had to endure at the Dulce base. Apparently there was a war in the Dulce base, because Dulce was a base, I don't know if it's still operational today, but it was a base used by both aliens and humans. And the aliens apparently decided they'd had enough of the humans, and they decided they wanted to run the base by themselves. So basically the humans said, no, this is a joint effort, we agreed, remember? The aliens said, fuck you, and started using their laser guns on people, or ray guns, whatever it is. I shouldn't laugh, because one of these things did injure Phil Schneider. And the firefight ensued. This was in 1979, and Schneider was a casualty of that. And as I say, he shows these scars when he used to speak. He's not around anymore, he's dead. He apparently committed suicide, although just like Dr. David Kelly committed suicide, just like Kurt Cobain committed suicide, just like all these people who committed suicide, like Kurt Cobain shot himself through the head. There were 2 gunshot wounds on his head, so that's how they know. David Kelly slashed his wrist and bled to death, even though he didn't actually lose any blood. And Schneider, I think, is another of these guys who's been suicided. This verb to suicide, it's like a transitive verb that has completely, which has really taken over in our community from its original meaning, which was to commit suicide. Suicide being a noun. It's now a verb, and it's a transitive verb, or an intransitive verb. You suicide somebody, just like you disappear them. Someone has been disappeared, like all those hundreds of thousands of children have been disappeared. But Schneider was at Dulce. He's another of these Dulce witnesses. What we really need is for some of the Peasemore witnesses to come forward to back up King and Casbolt's story. We need to be aware of what's going on. We need more evidence. There's really not enough. I mean, this could all be kind of a fabrication. It's possible. And that is something we have to face up to. So time will tell. That's what I can say. Hopefully this will come out one day. Yeah, will come out one day. Oh. Now, Casbolt also talks about an internal war in the intelligence services, like the CIA are fighting the NSA, and the FBI are fighting MI5, things like that. I don't know if that's true. I mean, see, David Icke talks about that relating to Diana's death. We've seen a lot about Diana in the newspapers lately, which makes you think there may be something in it. But I'm not sure exactly how much that goes. But one thing he did say was that a lot of the implants people have, and we've seen a lot of the Amash witnesses talking about their implants. I mean, I know people who have implants. And they come from. Now, I'm not sure exactly to what extent this is true, but Casbolt says they come from Peasemore. The implants are done during my labs at Peasemore. This is the principal MyLab centre under our feet here at Peasemore, and also things like I mean, you see, it's a bit vague about exactly who runs Peasemore. It appears that Peasemore is a joint operation between the extraterrestrials and humans, like of course Dulcie. The sun's coming back out again, which is really nice. I'll just take these out. I've just been listening to Kaz Bolt's interview again, actually. Oh, that's it. It's a plane up there. Not looking at me. Not looking for me, of course. You can get a bit paranoid in this business. Good job, I'm not paranoid. But I've reached the road now. I've come from Peasemore. Peasemore's over there. I've now reached the road. I'm going to go back to the bus stop, which is just down here. I've got plenty of time. And that was interesting, I must say. Still a lot of questions to be answered, obviously. No definitive evidence. The people there are very nice. They're not disturbed by anything. There doesn't seem to be any, disquiet. From what I've gathered so far, they haven't reported any strange experiences to me. The village itself is lovely. It's beautiful. As I said, it has that peculiar atmosphere, but that could just be me and my imagination because of it's because of kind of why I've come to why I went to Peasemore. But I'll probably go back there again sometime, maybe do a bit more eavesdropping, a bit more looking around. Hello, doggy. Hello, doggies. Hello. Dogs are lovely, aren't they? Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little trip to Peasemore. Hopefully, I mean, this is now the 20th anniversary of the Basis project, so it's a good time maybe to do these kind of things. So I will probably come back, see if I can find out some more, and anything I do find, of course, I will share with you, Panama TV viewers. Oh, anyway, thanks for sharing this little trip to Peasemore with me, and I hope you enjoy this little video film. Until next time, Hospital Porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order.